So today I'm here to do my May wrap-up. I read 5 books in the month of May. I had 4 4-stars and 1 5-star, so I had a great reading month in May. And then at the end of the month, I actually started 3 more books that I am planning on finishing up / continuing in June. So let's just jump right into it. Yeah. So Alyssa Cole, I discovered Alyssa Cole through one of the booktubers that I watch had read A Princess in Theory, and they really enjoyed it. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll check this out, like see what it's all about. The premise of the book sounded really interesting. So I went on my library's website, and the only Alyssa Cole book that was available at the time was Can't Escape Love. So me, being the bright person that I am, didn't think about the fact that a series might actually have like an order to it. So I was like, okay, Can't Escape Love. This sounds really geeky and adorable. So I'm just going to get it and I'm going to read it. Yeah. So I read it. I'm pretty sure I spoiled myself for one of the other books, like completely spoiled myself for one of the other books in the series while I was reading it. And I really didn't know, like, you could read it. Like, I made it through okay reading it without having read anything else, but I mean, it would definitely help now that I've read, spoiler for this wrap-up, now that I've read a bunch of the other books in the series, like, it probably would have been easier to read if I had known who the characters were, because they reference characters and they're just kind of like, just arbitrarily. They're like, oh, this person or that person, and I'm like, I don't know who those people are. I bet I probably would if I read the other books in like the order that they're supposed to go in. But that being said, I read Can't Escape Love. That was the first book I finished in May, and I gave it 4 stars because I really enjoyed it. So in true Sarah fashion, I don't actually remember much about this book. I read it at the beginning of the month, and I've read so many of the other books in this series since then that I probably can't really give you too many details. It follows Regina and Gus. I think his name was Gus. Gustav? Gus? Yeah. So Regina runs this website, Girls with Glasses, and lately she's been overwhelmed and overworked, and she's having trouble sleeping. She's had like super bad insomnia, and the only thing she can think of to help her sleep is Gus's voice. He used to make videos, and she was like the only person that watched them and like commented on them, but something about his voice is very soothing to her. So her sister finds her his contact information, and she gets in touch with him and asks him if he will talk to her, or if she can buy, I think it's if she can buy recordings of his voice so that she can play them to fall asleep. And I mean, it just kind of develops from there, their relationship. And it was really cute. Like I said, it's a novella, so it's super short. It's super cute. I really enjoyed it. Even not knowing any of the backstory of any of the characters or what the heck was going on, really, I still gave it 4 stars. I loved it. And it pretty much made me immediately put myself on the wait list for every other Alyssa Cole book in the Reluctant Royal series. So I got a few more of those this month too. Okay, so after I finished Can't Escape Love, I got The Winter's Crime by Maria Rutkoski. It's the second book in the Winter's Curse trilogy. I gave the first book in the Winter's Curse trilogy 3 stars, and I kind of didn't really feel connected to the characters at all, but I still really wanted to carry on. Like, the ending hooked me just enough that I was like, okay, I want to know what happens to these characters, even though I really don't care that much about them. So yeah, I read The Winter's Crime. Again, I don't really remember too much about it. Like, see, this is the problem with this series. I gave The Winter's Crime 4 stars. I really enjoyed it while I was reading it. I can't really tell you what happened. I mean, it carried on from the first book. They were living in the palace in Valoria, and Arin was like an emissary from Huron. And yeah, I mean, I can't even really remember. Like, I can't concisely tell you what happened in this book, only that it was super political, and it was much better than the first one for me, and I gave it 4 stars because I enjoyed myself reading it. I can't tell you what it's about. I don't remember exactly what, like, the main plot of the book was, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm actually reading the third one coming up in June. So I will finish that series off and then maybe have a better summary of The Winter's Kiss next month. We'll see. I mean, it was good. I gave it 4 stars. Moving on. I finished The Winter's Crime. One of my library holds came due for another one of the books in the Reluctant Royal series. And if you know anything about the series, you're going to laugh when I tell you it was not a princess in theory. It was a duke by default. So once again, I didn't read the first book in the series. I just continued apparently going backwards. So Duke by Default follows Regina's sister, Portia. She goes to Scotland to be an apprentice to like a sword maker or blacksmith. I don't remember if they called him a blacksmith or a sword maker or what he was, but he made swords. And she went there. She was trying to like basically not run away, but she was trying to start over because she had issues with alcohol abuse and like not being a very good friend. And her parents thought she was kind of lazy. Like she didn't work as hard as her sister. And she was always being compared to Regina because they were twins. So she just wanted a fresh start. She wanted to be away from guys, away from alcohol. And so she ran away to Scotland and apprenticed with this guy. What was his name? Tavish? Tav? Yeah, Tavish. And, I mean, I guess it's not really a spoiler because of what the title is, but he ends up being a duke. And, yeah, fun times ensue from there. It's a romance, so, I mean, you know what happens. I don't really need to summarize it. But yeah, it was a good read. And again, there were references to characters that I had no idea who they were because I never read A Princess in Theory. But I mean, I stumbled my way through and it was still a 4-star read for me. So if you're keeping track, Alyssa Cole, we're 2 for 2, 4 stars. So obviously I kept reading. So after that, it was about the middle of the month and actually, I would say it's probably my most anticipated book of the year came out, and that was The Unfunny Mooners by Christina Lauren. I read this. I gave it 5 stars. It filled the hole in my heart that was left by The Hating Game after I read that because I loved that book. This checked every single box I have for, like, a contemporary romance. It was hate to love. It was set in a tropical location. They're in Hawaii. It reminded me, like, it gave me so much vibes from my own honeymoon. We went to Jamaica, but like the setting was so described so similarly, like it just made me so nostalgic for Jamaica. Like I actually texted my husband while I was reading this, like just like, I want to go on our honeymoon again. Like I miss our honeymoon. Like we need to go back to Jamaica. I want to go to Hawaii, but like this book made me nostalgic for Jamaica and I just want to go back so bad. And on top of all of that, I'm obviously no spoilers, but the conflict in this book was so much better than the usual like chick lit contemporary romance new adult conflict of just like miscommunication. I hate when the main conflict could be solved with just one good conversation. Like that drives me crazy. I read them, like I read books like that all the time because I swear that's how they all are. But for once, like, this book was not like this. This book had a valid conflict. And yeah, I mean, I just love this book so much and everyone should read it. I mean, it was all over BookTube, so I'm sure everybody already has read it that would be interested in it. But if you haven't, you need to read it. It's so good. I loved it. Yeah, so this was my 5-star book for the month. And the last book I read for the month, my hold finally came to me for A Princess in Theory, the first book in the Reluctant Royal series. So at the end of the month, I finally read A Princess in Theory, and I finally knew who all the characters who were being referenced were, and I felt like I was in the loop. A Princess in Theory follows our main character, Letty. She is I believe she's a doctoral student. She's either a master's student, she's a graduate student. And she's working at a lab, and she has a part-time job as a waitress, and, like, she's trying to make ends meet, and she gets this email from this random email address, and it's just kind of like, hey, the prince is looking for you. And she's like, what? Prince? What are you talking about? And so she ignores it, and she gets a million emails from these people, and she just keeps ignoring them. So the prince, spoiler alert, there's actually a prince, he comes to find her in New York City, and he poses as this guy Jamal and starts like working with her well, I think he just works with her that one day, and then he moves in the hall across from her apartment, and that's kind of weird, like into the apartment across the hall from her. But yeah, the book just follows their story. Again, it's a romance, so you can probably guess where it goes. Like, you can probably guess the entire storyline. But it was a good time. It was a fun read. It was a quick read, and it was the last book I read in its completion this month, and I gave it 4 stars. So overall, I have like a list right in front of me so that I don't forget anything. I read Can't Escape Love, A Duke by Default, A Princess in Theory. So I read 3 Alyssa Cole's books, and they all got 4 stars. And I finished A Princess in Theory, and I still had a few days left of the month, so I ended up picking up a few other things. One of those things was Once Ghosted, Twice Shy, which is another Reluctant Royals novella that follows one of the characters from A Princess in Theory. And I think, like, at this point, like 75% through. I mean, Alyssa Cole, like, she might be an auto-buy author for me, or like an auto-read author for me from now on, because I'm just having such a good time with this whole series. I think she has another series out too. I'll have to check that one out when I'm done with this one. So I think I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there were 3 books that I started in May, and I'm going to finish in June, or / make my way through in June, because the next one I'm definitely not going to finish in the month of June. But so it's Once Ghosted, Twice Shy, and then the next book I started was A Storm of Swords by George R.R. Martin. It is the 3rd book in the A Song of Ice and Fire series. I'm only like 30 or 40 pages in so far, and there's absolutely no way I'm going to finish this in June, but I'm hoping to, make my way like through a decent amount of it. And then the last book that I started in May, because I didn't want to be a liar when I put it on my TBR yet again for the month of May, saying that I was going to start it, and there was no way that I wasn't going to start it that month, was Becoming by Michelle Obama. I finally picked this up. I started it. I'm only like a little, like maybe 20 pages in, but I'm enjoying it so far. She's just talking about her life growing up in Chicago. And I'm just so excited that I finally actually picked this up. I've been saying that I was going to pick it up since I bought it in November. So yeah, June is the month. I'm going to finish this baby up. Those were all the books that I read / started in the month of May. Alyssa Cole was definitely the author of the month for me. Have you read any of her stuff? Do you like it? And let me know what you read in the month of May. Did you read anything that you really enjoyed and think that I should pick up? Because I am always looking for new things to read. And yeah, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.